You ever see one of the Incredible Hulk movies? A mild-mannered scientist experiments with radiation, turn him into someone who becomes a monster when he gets angry. The EPA is kind of like that. And here in our studio is one of the real creators of the EPA monster, Jay Lehr of the Heartland Institute. And you make no apologies.
None at all. Between 1968 and 1971, a half a dozen heads of professional societies helped the Bureau of Water Hygiene create US EPA. I worked on a variety of committees to write 6 very important laws that created a safety net for our environment.
Things like the Water Pollution Control Act, the Drinking Water Act. And I mean, I'm with you on this. That stuff was good because
it was definitely good. The government had no clue of how bad our environment is. Our air was terrible. People threw garbage into our water. Nobody was looking out for the way we mined chemicals or put chemicals on our agriculture, and we needed rules, and we passed them in the 70s. From the 80s on, we absolutely have done nothing of value.
Nothing of value from the 80s. Well, let's go back to the 70s, because even people who lived through the worst of the pollution that he's talking about, like us, often forget how polluted the air and water were. Here's a Walter Cronkite special that aired the first year I was a reporter.
Earth Day, a question of survival. Act or die.
The clear days are fewer now. And instead of forever, the view often stops with haze. The air is threatened.
Welcome, sulfur dioxide. Hello, carbon monoxide.
And that's just in the air. The city's rivers offer a whole new dimension of pollution.
It was bad. Maybe not that bad. Some of that was network news hysteria. But the air was filthy. In some towns, people wouldn't open windows because soot would just pour in. We do forget how bad it was.
On June 21st, 1968, the Cuyahoga River outside of Cleveland caught fire when a spark came off a railroad car onto the polluted water. It was terrible, John.
But nothing useful after 1980? They've done nothing?
Nothing whatsoever. The Environmental Protection Agency
got 15,000 employees.
All just looking over the shoulder of the 50 states that do all of their bidding. The states is where the action is, and we should phase out EPA over a 5-year period and put all the responsibility in the hands of a committee of the whole. The 50 state agencies, move the offices from Washington, D.C. to Topeka, Kansas, save $6.2 billion, and improve environmental protection.
A magazine in this city, try not to breathe too much air today.
Well, that is absurd, but when I started in environmental science in the 60s, we could only measure a part per million, then a part per billion, 1,000 times smaller, then a part per trillion, now a part per quadrillion. The concentrations we measure are so small that we'll soon measure a molecule in a glass of water. Then we'll know there's a little bit of everything in every glass of water.
But the EPA says even these tiny amounts are killing people.
They're absolutely wrong. I mean, it's fraudulent. They're not at all. They're of no importance. None of their amendments have improved either our environment or human health. All they do is ruin our economy.
Today, people equate the threat of climate change with pollution. Here's Senator Barbara Boxer this summer.
We need to take action now to protect families and communities from the mounting impacts of climate change and dangerous carbon pollution. 3,700 cases of bronchitis in children, 150,000 asthma attacks, 3,300 heart attacks.
So she's just, I mean, maybe climate change is real, but it has nothing to do with heart attack.
Nothing at all. And you said it early on in the show. They're talking about carbon pollution. They should be talking about carbon dioxide. There's nothing in the atmosphere, John, that will allow carbon dioxide to be broken up into carbon and oxygen. So they're trying to scare people with a falsehood.
But wouldn't it be good to reduce carbon in the air, carbon dioxide?
Absolutely not. We're only on this planet because we have carbon dioxide and plants grow and we breathe. It's absurd to consider carbon dioxide a pollutant. It is not, but it's given the US EPA an opportunity to run our lives.
Thank you, Jay Lehr from the Heartland Institute, a think tank in the Midwest, which is unusual. In Wyoming, a farmer had the nerve to put a small dam on a stream on his property so he could have a pond. It worked out. The wildlife like it.
Now you can see bald eagles here. We have moose come down. 4 and 5 pound brown trout live in this. It's just been a tremendous environmental benefit.
Great. Maybe you want to do something like that. But you better not, because even if you think your property is your property, in America today, it's not.
The fact that you own it doesn't matter. Cross the EPA's bureaucrats and the green monster may smash through your wall. Better hope the monster doesn't take notice and focus his wrath on you.
That was the Incredible Hulk, and in many ways, the EPA is kind of like that green monster, and now the monster has focused its wrath on Andy Johnson. Johnson's the Wyoming man who owns that small farm. You built a pond. Why?
Well, we wanted to provide stock watering for our horses and cows, improve our property, and provide an environmental benefit as well.
And to build a pond means a dike, means you're diverting water that might have gone to somebody else, right?
Well, actually, our pond is designed to where we have a spillway and it comes up to a certain level and then it just automatically dumps over. We don't regulate it at all, so we're not actually blocking the water.
So you go to your state environmental officials and you get permission?
Yeah, I went to the state engineer's office right there locally, then we sent off a stock pond permit through the state of Wyoming to the Cheyenne office, and when we got the permit back, we began to start our project.
And we checked, and he's right, the state engineer's office says the permit is in good standing and entitled to be exercised, exactly as permitted. So you do, and then the feds come in suddenly, and you say what?
Well, Mr. Johnson, you may or may not be in violation, but you need to prove to us that you are not.
In violation of what?
The Clean Water Act. And the funny part about that is my water that leaves my property out of the pond is actually 41 times cleaner than the alleged navigable water that I've affected, so they say.
The EPA gave you 30 days to dismantle the pond.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you do that.
Physically impossible.
Said there might be fines of $187,500 per day.
It's extortion. There's, I don't know any other way to say it. It's just ridiculous.
Now, most people just cave. You can't fight the government. You can't afford the lawyers. You going to cave?
No, sir. We're going to fight them all the way. I have legal foundations that are backing me up.
The EPA sent us a statement. Mr. Johnson's construction of a dam was done in violation of a well-known and well-established Clean Water Act permitting process.
No, the state never informed me of any other federal permit that I needed. And I went through all the hoops that the state of Wyoming required in order to build this. I asked all the neighbors, all the locals. It turns out I'm one of the very, very few that even has a state permit.
And he's not lying about the state. We got a note from the governor of his state today. Mr. Johnson constructed his pond appropriately. The actions of the EPA have been heavy-handed. They want to expand their authority, he says, and you get the brunt.
Yeah, they want to take over all jurisdiction on private property throughout the United States. I think they're using me as a test case.
The EPA now says it may adjust its rule and increase the amount of land over which it has jurisdiction. That's upset some landowners, and one farming family who had heard the EPA sometimes labels ditches and dried up riverbeds wetlands, which must be preserved, made this protest video to the tune of the Oscar-winning song Let It Go.
That's enough, that's enough. The EPA and the Corps, they will try to justify, but we won't back down. Don't need more government anyway.
So, Andy, at least you have some company out west fighting them.
Absolutely.
And this idea that they show the canoe in a dry ditch, does this resonate?
They want to be in charge of every drop of water that hits the earth. Let it be off your roof, let it be in a rain barrel. Who knows where the end is on this.
Last year, the EPA decreed every fuel seller must use more biomass, like soybeans and diesel fuel. Cost the EPA little to demand that, but cost the fuel industry hundreds of millions to comply, and consumers will pay the extra cost when we buy fuel. Aside from cost, why, when the air and water are cleaner than they've been in years, and they keep getting cleaner because of improvements in technology, heck, the air gets cleaner every time someone buys a new car and junks an old one, why then must the EPA keep passing more rules? Because that's what government regulators do. If you're a bureaucrat and you're not passing rules, you think you're not doing your job. So it's always more. As Thomas Jefferson said, it's the natural progress of things for government to grow and liberty to yield. But it's worse with the EPA because think about who's likely to become an EPA bureaucrat. Environmental zealots, that's who. There's a revolving door between the EPA and environmental groups. Remember that EPA regulator who was caught bragging how he'd treat the oil industry the way the Romans once crucified people?
It was kind of like how the Romans used to conquer little villages.
He resigned, but quickly found work at the Sierra Club. Others who once worked for the Sierra Club now work at the EPA. EPA bureaucrats are not dispassionate regulators. These are environmental zealots. And when they're in government, zealots have power over you. 16,000 people work for the EPA. Some are religious fanatics, and their religion is command and control until the earth is pure. Some are just jerks. Region 8 of the EPA sent out a memo to its employees saying, "Don't defecate in the hallway." The U.S. Inspector General found one EPA staffer spent 2 to 6 hours of his workday watching pornography. He downloaded 7,000 porn files. Guess he wasn't very busy, but the EPA paid him $125,000 a year and gave him bonuses, performance awards. Your government at work.